Hey, this is America's Evil Genius. Wanted to take just a quick moment to discuss the events of today. No graphics, no big production or no effects or anything like that, because today has been Thursday, January 19th, has been one of the most tumultuous and probably important days in the GOP primary season for this year. A couple of big stories have come out. I wanted to give you some brief impressions of them, and then we'll probably talk about them in more detail with my next full America's Evil Genius presentation. But I just wanted to give you a quick foray into what's happening here. You may have heard earlier this morning that Rick Perry dropped out of the Republican race. And if you'll remember, last week I did a show where I basically made the point that conservatives need to coalesce around one candidate so they can fight Mitt Romney and Ron Paul and then get a conservative to win the nomination. With 3 or 4 candidates out there trying to vie for that conservative vote, the math was always going to work against us. So Perry has dropped out today, and I made the assertion, I made the plea, if you will, last week that Rick Perry and Newt Gingrich should both drop out so that Rick Santorum can be the nominee, and then we can get this down to a 3-man race and have that Romney versus conservative battle that we all want. Well, Rick Perry did drop out today, and I'm glad to see that he did so. I think he did the right thing. I'm certainly not saying that my plea had anything to do with it. And for all I know, they probably didn't see it, and that's fine. But as a voter, as a conservative, as an American, I would like to take this time to express my gratitude towards Governor Perry. I think he did the right thing. I think he did, in the long term, what's right for America. And I know it could not have been an easy decision for him to make. I know he personally had a lot invested in this. I think he accounted very well for himself during this campaign in terms of substance, in terms of the ideas he brought to the table. I know the campaign did not go the way he wanted it to. We talked about the debate flubs and all of this, but even at that, he retained a sense of humor about it. He kept hitting on the right issues, and frankly, Rick Perry would have made a good president. So I think Rick Perry did the right thing. I would like to, as a conservative, express my appreciation for that, and my appreciation for the race that he ran in terms of the ideas he brought to the table and the focus on social issues and on common sense economics. I think he did a lot of great things. I know it has to be tough for him to back out, but Perry is a alum, or they actually call him former students, a former student of Texas A&M University. And there's a tradition down there. Actually, there's a lot of traditions, but one of the main traditions with the Aggies down at Texas A&M is that they never admit to losing a football game. They always instead say that time ran out on them. So you'll never hear an Aggie say that Texas A&M lost to Oklahoma. They'll say Texas A&M was behind when the clock ran out, that sort of thing. It's a very positive attitude that they've always had about things. Well, in that vein, I think that Rick Perry, a fighting farmer himself, an Aggie himself, I think he can look at it that way. He did not lose this race. He did not lose this campaign. Time just ran out on him, and I, for one, appreciate what he brought to the table and what he added to the discussion in this campaign season. I wish you the best. Now, that brings us to another situation. I had said that I wanted Perry and Gingrich both to drop out. Perry has. Well, I don't think Gingrich is going to drop out, and even in spite of his ex-wife coming out with some alleged bombshells that she has on an interview with ABC News, but I don't think Gingrich is going to drop out, and that kind of raises a little bit of a problem for me. As you know, I prefer Rick Santorum to Newt Gingrich in terms of who's going to represent the conservative wing of the party. However, I'm also someone who sees the numbers and sees the statistics, if you'll pardon my saying so. And the Rasmussen poll came out today for South Carolina that showed the following. It showed Newt Gingrich in first place, 33%. Mitt Romney in second at 32%, so that's virtual tie. It's within the margin of error. Rick Santorum, unfortunately, was back in fourth place at 11%. And here we are 2 days out from the primary, and my first thought is that that's not a very good sign. As much as I like Santorum, and I know that he just has been certified as the actual winner of Iowa today, which is positive for him, but in reality, I don't think that changes very much. I think the actual facts that come out of Iowa are what they were before, in that Mitt Romney spent a ton of money in Iowa to win. He either won by 8 votes or lost by about 30. Either way, he did not get the result he wanted. Rick Santorum spent a lot less and resurrected his campaign from the dead with either a strong second-place finish or a first-place finish, so that doesn't change, and that's very positive. However, Where Santorum has been hurt is that normally when you win Iowa, you then have an opportunity to really capitalize on the momentum with that in terms of fundraising and so forth. That has not happened for Rick Santorum. And when you're at 11% in South Carolina 2 days out, and Gingrich is one of your fellow conservatives vying for the nomination, he's up at 33% in a tie for first place, virtually, I think we need to kind of relook at this. As I say, I prefer Santorum to Gingrich. There's a lot of things I don't like about Gingrich. I stood out here on this very program 7 months ago, and I was very upset with Newt Gingrich for calling Paul Ryan's plan to look at Social Security and some of the entitlement programs as calling that right-wing social engineering. The point I made back then, the point I will still make now, is that this country is in dire need of some right-wing social engineering. And I really wish Gingrich would understand that. So I had a real problem with that back then. I have a problem with it now. I even gave a eulogy out here for Newt Gingrich because of that. And certainly, during the last week, there have been things that Gingrich has done that I have not been pleased with. His attacks on Mitt Romney for basically his business acumen and his calls for Mitt Romney's tax returns. I mean, hey, I'm a Republican voter. What am I supposed to be looking for in these tax returns? What's supposed to make me angry about that? The fact that he's rich? I don't care about that. The fact that he might have paid a little bit less in terms of a tax rate than some others in his bracket, I don't really have a problem with that so long as it was done legally. All that tells me is that he was smart enough to hire a good CPA. That's more an indictment on the graduated tax code than it is Mitt Romney's failings or Mitt Romney's character. I don't have a problem with that. So I take issue to some of the type of attacks that Gingrich has been levying on Romney. I would rather he go after him on health care, on social issues, and that sort of thing. However, it must be said that Newt Gingrich has done a phenomenal job in these debates of bringing up new ideas, bringing up common sense ideas, talking about putting kids in a situation where they can get some work experience. And I know people have derided him for that, but I think that's a great idea. 2 or 3 generations ago, every kid did that. And nobody complained about it then. Talking about bringing the judicial branch of government back into reining it in a little bit and getting it back to the powers it was supposed to have instead of the powers that the aggressive judiciate have assigned to themselves over the last century. And he wants to take the bull by the horns on that. No other candidate's talking about it. My bottom line is this. I have to ask myself, even though I prefer Santorum over Gingrich, I have to ask myself, which is more important to me as a voter? The battle between Santorum and Gingrich, or the battle between Romney and the conservatives? And if I'm brutally honest about it, I would tell you that I think the most important battle is the battle between Romney and the conservatives. And unfortunately, Rick Santorum is at a point in the polls where he's far enough behind, I don't think he can make it up. So while it pains me on some level to do this, I must now say that our best bet is to get behind Newt Gingrich and to back him against Mitt Romney. And I do trust Newt Gingrich more than I trust Mitt Romney. Doesn't mean I fully trust Gingrich. It just tells you how little I trust Romney. The way I look at it is this. I think that both Mitt Romney and Newt Gingrich are the type of people that will tell voters whatever they think the voters want to hear in order to elect him. I know that sounds a little callous. I know that sounds a little cynical, but that's how I feel about the matter. The difference is that Romney currently thinks, and has thought all along, that in order to win an election, he has to appeal to the moderates. And so in terms of telling people what they want to hear to win an election, he's going to tell the moderates what they want to hear, which gives the moderates some level of power over him, both now and when he gets to the White House, if he gets there. By the same token, Newt Gingrich will also tell you whatever you want to hear to elect him, but Newt Gingrich currently thinks that it's the conservatives that are his ticket to winning. Therefore, we do have an amount of power over Newt Gingrich. Well, given the choice, I'll take, cynical as it might be, I'll take the guy who we have some power over. I'll take the guy who we can still influence because he wants to win the election. And we then have to make certain that once the election is done, and once he wins the White House, that we do keep the pressure on him to stay in that conservative vein. No question about it. The work doesn't end with the election. But I have to say, I got to go with Newt Gingrich at this point in time. So there's nothing bad about Rick Santorum. I think he's a good man. But it's just not going to work out this time in terms of the math. So I'm willing to get behind Newt Gingrich. I'm willing to fight with him. And I can't wait for him to debate Barack Obama and absolutely pull him through his hoop. I mean, if you look at what Gingrich has done to some of these moderators in these debates, moderators that were really carrying the water for Barack Obama and basically were test cases for how you have to debate Obama in the future, because they're all making the same arguments Obama will make. Particularly Juan Williams at the debate last Monday night. To see how Gingrich has handled all of them has been nothing short of masterful. And I can imagine what he's going to do to Obama in those debates. And let's face it, when Newt Gingrich eviscerates Barack Obama in the debates and holds Barack Obama's record up to the light and what he has accomplished, or more importantly, has not accomplished in the last 4 years, he will win this election, and it might just be in a landslide. So, there's my take on today. I haven't even talked about the alleged bombshell from his ex-wife. We might talk about that Sunday if it has any relevance by that point. Right now, I think it's much ado about nothing, but we might talk about that later. But that's where we stand right now. We have a debate coming up in just about an hour. I can't wait to watch it. And I'll get this video out just as soon as I can. Our next regular show will be Sunday night after the South Carolina primary, so I'll have complete analysis of all of it and tell you where we're at, tell you where we should go. But for right now, I wanted to make it clear that I am now throwing my support behind Newt Gingrich, and I think those of you in South Carolina should do the same. Because as important as it is to beat Barack Obama, I think it is in a way more important for us to beat Mitt Romney first. And people look at me funny when I say that, but I say it because I believe anybody currently still in the GOP race can defeat Barack Obama. But I think we got to beat Mitt Romney first so that at the end of all of this, the right ideas and the right person is in the White House. That's the bottom line. Let's focus on Romney and get him out of the picture first. In order to do it, let's get behind Newt Gingrich. This is America's Evil Genius. We'll see you Sunday night for a full recap of South Carolina.